Elena Marsh had been Luna of the Ashwood Pack for 8 years, and in all that time, she had never once heard the pack hall go as silent as it did the night her husband ended her marriage in front of everyone. Damon Ashwood stood at the head of the hall, tall and proud, the firelight catching the silver in his eyes. Beside him stood a girl, Elena barely recognized, no older than 18, with glossy dark hair and a nervous, triumphant smile. Her name was Brielle. Elena had seen her only a handful of times, always trailing behind the younger wolves, always laughing a little too loudly at Damon's jokes. "I have found my true mate," Damon announced, his voice carrying easily across the crowded hall. "The bond between Elena and me was never a fated one. It was arranged when we were young, to unite 2 packs. That duty has been served. But this," he reached for Brielle's hand, "this is real." Elena sat very still in her chair at the high table, the one she had occupied every single night for 8 years. She felt the eyes of the pack shift toward her, waiting to see how she would break. She did not break, not there. "By the old law," Damon continued, "an unconsummated political mating may be set aside when a true bond is found. I invoke that law tonight." A murmur rolled through the hall. Elena knew the law. She had studied every law of the pack more thoroughly than Damon ever had, because for 8 years, she had been the one running the pack while he took the credit. She had settled land disputes. She had trained new warriors. She had balanced the pack's accounts and negotiated with 3 neighboring territories. And now, with a few sentences, all of it was being erased. "You may keep your name," Damon said, almost gently, as if that was a mercy. "But you are no longer Luna of Ashwood. I ask that you leave the territory by morning." Elena rose from her chair. Her legs did not shake, though she expected them to. She looked at Damon for a long moment, then at Brielle, who would not meet her eyes. 8 years, Elena said quietly. "I hope she gives you what you think I couldn't." Then she walked out of the hall, spine straight, chin level, and did not look back. By morning, she was gone. She drove north with no real plan, just a bag of clothes, a little money, and a heart that felt scraped hollow. The road blurred past her windows for hours. She did not cry. She had promised herself she would not cry until she was far enough away that no wolf from Ashwood could catch her scent. Somewhere past midnight, her car began to shudder, then cough, then die completely on a narrow road flanked by dark pine trees. Elena sat behind the wheel for a long moment, staring at the dashboard lights blinking out one by one, and let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Of course this would happen tonight. She stepped out into the cold and realized, belatedly, that she did not know whose land this was. The trees here felt different, older, watched. She had crossed pack lines without meaning to. She did not get far on foot before the cold and the exhaustion of the day caught up with her all at once. Her knees buckled at the edge of the road, and the last thing she remembered was the sound of footsteps, many of them, moving fast through the trees. When Elena woke, she was warm. She was lying in a bed she did not recognize, in a room with tall windows and dark wood furniture, a fire burning low in a stone hearth. For a moment she thought she had dreamed the entire terrible night. Then she saw the unfamiliar ceiling and remembered everything at once, and her chest ached all over again. The door opened, and a man stepped inside. He was not like any alpha she had met before. He moved like someone who had never needed to raise his voice to be obeyed. His presence filled the room without effort. When his eyes found hers, something in his expression shifted, subtle but unmistakable, like a man recognizing something he had been searching for his whole life without knowing its name. "You're awake," he said. His voice was low and even. "You collapsed at the edge of my territory. I'm Kian Blackthorn." Elena had heard that name before, in hushed tones, at pack gatherings. The Wolf King, alpha of alphas, ruler over every northern pack, feared for his discipline, and respected for his fairness. It was said he had never taken a mate, that no scent in the world had ever called to him. She sat up slowly, pulling the blanket tighter around her shoulders, suddenly aware of how she must look, disheveled and pale, a stranger who had trespassed on his land in the middle of the night. "I'm sorry," she said. "My car broke down. I didn't mean to cross into your territory." "You're not in trouble," Kian said. Then he paused, and something flickered behind his composed expression. "May I ask your name?" "Elena," she said. "Elena Marsh." The moment she said it, she saw him breathe in, slow and deliberate, the way wolves did when a scent mattered. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Elena had been married 8 years, and knew exactly what that look meant, though she refused to let herself believe it. "You caught my scent," she said flatly. "Don't. Whatever you think this is, I've had enough of alphas and their destinies for one lifetime." To her surprise, he did not argue. He simply nodded once respectfully and stepped back toward the door. "You're welcome to stay here and rest as long as you need," he said. "No one will trouble you. I won't ask anything of you that you don't offer freely." Then he left, and Elena lay back against the pillows, staring at the ceiling, wondering what kind of place she had stumbled into. She stayed in Blackthorn territory through the following weeks, first out of necessity, since her car and her money were both gone, and then, slowly, out of something closer to choice. Kian kept his word. He did not press her, did not speak of fate or sense or mates again. He simply made sure she had a room, meals, a physician who checked on the small cuts she hadn't noticed she'd gotten stumbling through the woods, and a strange, steady kind of respect that Elena had almost forgotten existed. She began to notice things about Blackthorn that were different from Ashwood. The pack here was organized with a precision Damon had never managed. Supply routes ran on schedule. Disputes were settled with patience rather than temper. And Kian, for all his fearsome reputation, listened more than he spoke. One afternoon, she found him reviewing territory boundary reports at a long table, frowning slightly at a section that clearly wasn't adding up. Without thinking, Elena leaned over his shoulder and pointed at a discrepancy in the eastern line. "That boundary marker was probably moved during the flood 2 seasons ago," she said. "We had the same issue at Ashwood. You'll want to resurvey rather than trust the old map." Kian looked up at her, surprised, then genuinely interested. "You handled land disputes?" "I handled everything," Elena said, before she could stop herself. Then, quieter, "For 8 years, I ran that pack." He just stood at the front of it. Kian did not offer pity, which she appreciated more than she expected. Instead, he pulled out the chair beside him. "Then help me fix this." It became a pattern after that. Elena found herself pulled into meetings, not as a guest being humored, but as someone whose opinion genuinely shifted decisions. Warriors who had never met her began greeting her by name. She caught herself laughing, actually laughing, at something one of Kian's advisors said during a long negotiation session, and realized with a small shock that it was the first time she had laughed freely in years. Word of her, of course, traveled. It always did in wolf society. Whispers reached Ashwood territory that the untouchable Wolf King had a mysterious woman living under his protection, one he treated with unusual regard. Elena did not know this until the morning Damon arrived at Blackthorn's gates. She was in the courtyard when she saw him step out of his car, Brielle trailing close behind, looking around the grand stone halls of Blackthorn territory with wide, uncertain eyes. Damon's expression shifted from confidence to visible shock the moment he saw Elena standing near the entrance, dressed simply but clearly at ease, clearly belonging. "Elena," he said, recovering quickly, though his voice had an edge to it now. "I didn't expect to find you here." "Neither did I," Elena said evenly. "What brings you to Blackthorn territory, Damon?" He straightened, falling back into the posture of an alpha making requests. "Business with King Blackthorn. Pack matters." His eyes flicked over her again, taking in the way the guards nodded respectfully as she passed, the way none of them treated her like an outsider. Something like jealousy sharpened his gaze. "You're still Pack, Elena. Whatever arrangement you've made here, you understand your place hasn't actually changed." Before Elena could respond, Kian's voice cut through the courtyard, calm but unmistakably final. "She was released from your pack," Kian said, stepping out from the hall behind her, his presence immediately quieting the space. "By your own words, in front of your own people. Blackthorn law does not recognize claims on a wolf who was formally set free. She belongs to no one here except by her own will." Damon's jaw tightened, but he said nothing further on the matter, clearly aware he was standing on land where his authority meant nothing. Brielle, perhaps sensing the shift in power and wanting to reclaim some ground, stepped forward with a tight, condescending smile. "It must be difficult," she said to Elena, loud enough for the gathering guards to hear, "chasing after another alpha, the moment the first one lets you go. Some wolves just aren't meant to be anyone's mate." The courtyard went quiet. A year ago, even a few months ago, Elena might have shrunk from that kind of comment. But something had shifted in her these past weeks. Something that had been rebuilt piece by piece, in a place where her voice actually mattered. "I didn't chase anyone," Elena said, calm and clear. "I collapsed on this land because my car broke down, after I was thrown out of my own home with nothing. As for what I'm capable of, let me tell you what I did in 8 years as Luna of Ashwood. I settled every land dispute the pack faced. I trained half the warriors currently guarding that territory. I balanced accounts Damon never once looked at. I negotiated treaties with 3 neighboring packs, while he took the credit at every signing table." She let her gaze move slowly across the gathered Blackthorn wolves, then back to Brielle. "You're welcome to that title. I hope you're ready to actually do the work behind it, because I promise you, no one will do it for you, the way I did for him." The silence that followed was different this time, thoughtful rather than shocked, and Elena watched several of the Blackthorn warriors exchange quiet, impressed glances. Kian said nothing for a long moment, simply watching her with an expression Elena couldn't quite name, something between pride and certainty. Then he turned to Damon. "I came prepared to discuss backing your claim over Brielle's contested position as Luna," Kian said. "I've changed my mind. A pack built on humiliating the woman who ran it for 8 years is not a pack I'll lend my name to. You'll find no support from Blackthorn." Damon opened his mouth to argue, but the look on Kian's face left no room for negotiation. Without Blackthorn's backing, Damon knew exactly how quickly the other northern packs would follow suit. His alliances, so carefully built, were unraveling in real time, and there was nothing he could do about it standing in this courtyard. He left within the hour, Brielle beside him, both of them noticeably smaller than when they had arrived. That evening, Kian found Elena on the balcony overlooking the training grounds, the sky turning soft shades of orange and violet above the tree line. "You didn't need me to defend you today," he said, coming to stand beside her. "You handled it yourself." "I've spent 8 years being spoken over," Elena said. It felt good to finally be heard. Kian was quiet for a moment. "I knew you were my mate the night you collapsed at my border. I could have told you then. I chose not to, because I didn't want you to feel like you'd traded one alpha's claim for another's, the moment you had nothing left. I wanted you to choose this, if you ever did, because you wanted it. Not because fate told you to." Elena turned to look at him, really look at him, at the steadiness in his eyes, the patience he had shown her every single day since she arrived, asking for nothing, offering everything. "I'm choosing it," she said softly, "not because of fate. Because for the first time in a long time, I feel like an equal instead of an obligation." Kian reached for her hand, and this time, she did not pull away. The mate bond settled between them quietly, without spectacle, exactly the way it should have all along, chosen freely by 2 people who had both learned the value of being truly seen. Ashwood's alliances continued to crumble in the months that followed, weakened without Blackthorn's support, Brielle's claim never fully accepted by a pack that no longer trusted its own alpha's judgment. Elena heard about it only in passing, and found she felt no satisfaction in their downfall, only a quiet peace in how far she had come from that humiliating night in the pack hall. She was crowned Luna of Blackthorn on a clear autumn morning, standing beside a king who had waited for her to be ready, rather than demanding she simply belong to him. It was not a title given to replace what she had lost. It was something she had built again, from nothing, on her own terms, this time, with someone who saw exactly what she was worth. She had once been a name on someone else's title, easily erased with a few careless words in front of a crowded hall. Now, standing beside the Wolf King, she was the reason his crown meant anything at all.